Here we go again. I mean, this is the truth show, and there's more. Oh, I'm not done yet. Oh, and there's more. Oh, I'm not done yet. I mean, this is the truth show. Oh, yes.
Hello, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. This is going to be a live viewing party, something drastically different. We are just going to wait for more people to come on. In the meantime, here are your warnings.
Please note that this is all alleged. I've never met any of these people. I've deeply researched all of my information. This is a trigger warning. In this video, I may be talking about or showing sensitive material about some subjects or topics that may be disturbing or upsetting or may bring forth some troubling memories, as you read in the description or title. With that said, either end the video now or brace yourself. Aside from that, enjoy.
All right, fantastic. Now, this particular live viewing is brought to you by TikToker Nerd Y Pink Panda. I'm going to do a view party of her playlist. I never done this before. Never done. I'm not getting paid for this at all. Not getting paid, commercial free. I just want to bring awareness. Anything that has anything to do with bring awareness, to bring justice, I am willing to publicize it, even though I'm not getting any benefit from it, even at the state of my channel right now. And it's really stupid for me in terms of material and publicize to be publicizing someone else's channel while my channel is still suffering. But this is for a good cause, and I want to bring awareness. So I'm asking you guys to please share, and sit back, get your popcorn, wine, or whatever you drink on Saturdays, and sit back and enjoy this live streaming, because she is getting deep and she's literally confirming everything that I've been saying for a very, very long time. In the meantime, make sure you hit that like button and let's get started here.
Well, apparently there is a list, considering Ghislaine Maxwell apparently told the DOJ about 100 potential Epstein associates. According to Maxwell's lawyer, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche asked questions about 100 different people the administration suspects might have had ties to Epstein. But now, my friends, I have a theory for you, because what if the birthday book is the list? We know that this book is not in the possession of the DOJ, that it is in fact in the possession of his estate. But what if Ghislaine is the one who knows the location of this book, because she's trying to scare Donald Trump into giving her a pardon? As we all know by now, Bill Clinton also was revealed to have a letter to Jeffrey Epstein in this birthday book. Clinton and Trump were both listed in the friends section of this book, because apparently there's a whole table of content. Other categories in this book is business, science, Brooklyn, and family. But in the friends section is like Trump, Clinton, Black, Zuckerman, Wexner, Alan Dershowitz, and Jean-Luc Brunel, who I literally just did a video about. Now that we have Clinton's creepy ass letter, he actually uses the phrase also to have your childlike curiosity. It doesn't feel like a coincidence that both this letter and the Trump letter had some very bizarre references that felt like, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. We know it's a thing amongst pedos where they trade incriminating information with each other so that nobody can talk. What if the contents of this birthday book is the inconspicuous way of doing that? Included in this book is also a letter from Alan Dershowitz, who was longtime family friend of Trump, also his lawyer, also Epstein's lawyer in the 2005 through 8 criminal case. The guy who 4 days ago called Ghislaine Maxwell Epstein's Rosetta Stone because she knows everything. Well, in his birthday letter, he included a mock-up of a Vanity Unfair magazine cover with mock headlines. But Epstein's 50th birthday was January 20th, 2003. 2 months later, Jeffrey Epstein was actually profiled in Vanity Fair. Vicky Ward started doing this story. In 2002, she actually uncovered the trafficking ring. He interviewed victims who were going to come forward in this article. The story was ready to go. Then suddenly her editor told her that she couldn't print it. Why? Because Bill Clinton stormed into Vanity Fair and threatened them and told them not to run the trafficking story against his good friend, Jeffrey Epstein. And according to the Wall Street Journal, there are 20 more people who are listed as friends of Jeffrey's in this book. But what if the birthday book is the list? And if you haven't watched it yet, go watch this video that I posted a little while ago, because Epstein's claws might have been even deeper in our government than we can imagine. Well, apparently there is a list, considering Ghislaine Maxwell apparently told the DOJ about 100 potential Epstein associates. According to Maxwell's lawyer, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche asked questions about 100 different people the administration suspects might have had ties to Epstein. But now, my friends, I have a theory for you, because what if the birthday book is the list? We know that this book is not in the possession of the DOJ, that it is in fact in the possession of his estate. But what if Ghislaine is the one who knows the location of this book because she's trying to scare Donald Trump into giving her a pardon? As we all know by now, Bill Clinton also was revealed to have a letter to Jeffrey Epstein in this birthday book. Clinton and Trump were both listed in the friends section of this book because apparently there's a whole table of content. Other categories in this book is business, science, Brooklyn, and family. But in the friends section is like Trump, Clinton, Black, Zuckerman, Wexner, Alan Dershowitz, and Jean-Luc Brunel, who I literally just did a video about. Now that we have Clinton's creepy-ass letter, he actually uses the phrase, also to have your childlike curiosity. It doesn't feel like a coincidence that both this letter and the Trump letter had some very bizarre references that felt like, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. We know it's a thing amongst pedos where they trade incriminating information with each other so that nobody can talk. What if the contents of this birthday book is the inconspicuous way of doing that? Included in this book is also a letter from Alan Dershowitz, who was longtime family friend of Trump, also his lawyer, also Epstein's lawyer in the 2005 through 8 criminal case. The guy who 4 days ago called Ghislaine Maxwell Epstein's Rosetta Stone because she knows everything. Well, in his birthday letter, he included a mock-up of a Vanity Unfair magazine cover with mock headlines. But Epstein's 50th birthday was January 20th, 2003. 2 months later, Jeffrey Epstein was actually profiled in Vanity Fair. Vicky Ward started doing this story. In 2002, she actually uncovered the trafficking ring. She interviewed victims who were going to come forward in this article. The story was ready to go. Then suddenly her editor told her that she couldn't print it. Why? Because Bill Clinton stormed into Vanity Fair and threatened them and told them not to run the trafficking story against his good friend, Jeffrey Epstein. And according to the Wall Street Journal, there are 20 more people who are listed as friends of Jeffrey's in this book. But what if the birthday book is the list? And if you haven't watched it yet, go watch this video that I posted a little while ago, because Epstein's claws might have been even deeper in our government than we can imagine. Well, apparently there is a list, considering Ghislaine Maxwell apparently told the DOJ about 100 potential Epstein associates. According to Maxwell's lawyer, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche asked questions about 100 different people the administration suspects might have had ties to Epstein. But now, my friends, I have a theory for you, because what if the birthday book is the list? We know that this book is not in the possession of the DOJ, that it is in fact in the possession of his estate. But what if Ghislaine is the one who knows the location of this book because she's trying to scare Donald Trump into giving her a pardon? As we all know by now, Bill Clinton also was revealed to have a letter to Jeffrey Epstein in this birthday book. Clinton and Trump were both listed in the friends section of this book because apparently there's a whole table of content. Other categories in this book is business, science, Brooklyn, and family. But in the friends section is like Trump, Clinton, Black, Zuckerman, Wexner, Alan Dershowitz, and Jean-Luc Brunel, who I literally just did a video about. Now that we have Clinton's creepy-ass letter, he actually uses the phrase, also to have your childlike curiosity. It doesn't feel like a coincidence that both this letter and the Trump letter had some very bizarre references that felt like, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. We know it's a thing amongst pedos where they trade incriminating information with each other so that nobody can talk. What if the contents of this birthday book is the inconspicuous way of doing that? Included in this book is also a letter from Alan Dershowitz, who was longtime family friend of Trump, also his lawyer, also Epstein's lawyer in the 2005 through 8 criminal case. The guy who 4 days ago called Ghislaine Maxwell Epstein's Rosetta Stone because she knows everything. Well, in his birthday letter, he included a mock-up of a Vanity Unfair magazine cover with mock headlines. But Epstein's 50th birthday was January 20th, 2003. 2 months later, Jeffrey Epstein was actually profiled in Vanity Fair. Vicky Ward started doing this story. In 2002, she actually uncovered the trafficking ring. She interviewed victims who were going to come forward in this article. The story was ready to go. Then suddenly her editor told her that she couldn't print it. Why? Because Bill Clinton stormed into Vanity Fair and threatened them and told them not to run the trafficking story against his good friend, Jeffrey Epstein. And according to the Wall Street Journal, there are 20 more people who are listed as friends of Jeffries in this book. But what if the birthday book is the list? And if you haven't watched it yet, go watch this video that I posted a little while ago, because Epstein's claws might have been even deeper in our government than we can imagine. Well, apparently there is a list, considering Ghislaine Maxwell apparently
Yes, I am
told
being
the
shut up.
DOJ about 100 potential Epstein associates. According to Maxwell's lawyer, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche asked questions about
crazy.
100 different people the administration suspects might have had ties to Epstein. But now, my friends, I have a theory for you, because what if the birthday book
Hell yeah.
is the list? We know that this book is not in the possession of the DOJ, that it is in fact in the possession of his estate. But what if Ghislaine is the one who knows the location of this book, because she's trying to scare Donald Trump into giving her a pardon? As we all know by now, Bill Clinton also was revealed to have a letter to Jeffrey Epstein in this birthday book. Clinton and Trump were both listed in the friends section of this book, because apparently there's a whole table of content. Other categories in this book is business, science, Brooklyn, and family. But in the friends section is like Trump, Clinton, Black, Zuckerman, Wexner, Alan Dershowitz, and Jean-Luc Brunel, who I literally just did a video about. Now that we have Clinton's creepy-ass letter, he actually uses the phrase, also to have your childlike curiosity. It doesn't feel like a coincidence that both this letter and the Trump letter had some very bizarre references that felt like, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. We know it's a thing amongst pedos where they trade incriminating information with each other so that nobody can talk. What if the contents of this birthday book is the inconspicuous way of doing that? Included in this book is also a letter from Alan Dershowitz, who was longtime family friend of Trump, also his lawyer, also Epstein's lawyer in the 2005 through 8 criminal case. The guy who 4 days ago called Ghislaine Maxwell Epstein's Rosetta Stone because she knows everything. Well, in his birthday letter, he included a mock-up of a Vanity Unfair magazine cover with mock headlines. But Epstein's 50th birthday was January 20th, 2003. 2 months later, Jeffrey Epstein was actually profiled in Vanity Fair. Vicky Ward started doing this story in 2002. She actually uncovered the trafficking ring. She interviewed victims who were going to come forward in this article. The story was ready to go. Then suddenly her editor told her that she couldn't print it. Why? Because Bill Clinton stormed into Vanity Fair and threatened them and told them not to run the trafficking story against his good friend, Jeffrey Epstein. And according to the Wall Street Journal, there are 20 more people who are listed as friends of Jeffries in this book. But what if the birthday book is the list? And if you haven't watched it yet, go watch this video that I posted a little while ago, because Epstein's claws might have been even deeper in our government than we can imagine. Did you see that Donald Trump used his grandchildren as a shield, as if the proximity of being around children would make us forget about the Epstein files? He legitimately makes them hold his hand for 20, 30 feet as they walk to a second plane, and then spends the entire time talking to the little girl and not the boy. And when I saw this, I was like, who the F's children are these? Because I've never seen them before. But as he's walking away, you'll notice that Don Jr. and whoever it is he's with are in the background, coming out of a second opening. I mean, it's just really gross that he's using children to try and shield himself for his crimes against children. And the timing of this is just unsurprising, because not only did Donald Trump tell reporters on Air Force One that Epstein stole trafficking victims from him, but Michael Wolff, his biographer, who spent over 100 hours interviewing Epstein in 2017 for Trump's biography, remembers how Epstein pulled out incriminating photos of Donald Trump and showed them to him.
With photographs, they were Polaroids, I think, and he kind of spread them out like playing cards, and it was Trump. I mean, I think there were a dozen of them, and it was Trump with girls of an uncertain age at Epstein's Palm Beach house, where all of the things that he would ultimately be accused of took place. And I remember very vividly 3 of them. There are 2 in which Trump is, the girls, topless girls, are sitting on Trump's lap. And then a 3rd in which he has a stain on the front of his pants, and the girls are kind of pointing at it, sort of bent over, laughing, covering your nose. Yeah, exactly. And pointing 3 or 4 girls. And those are the ones I specifically remember.
And I can already hear the Trumpstein apologists. Why is he just now talking about it? Because y'all have a history of believing nothing that people try to tell you about Trump. I've been reporting on this for decades, and people just haven't been listening. In 1993, the book The Lost, the author got a hold of Ivana Trump's deposition against Trump in their divorce, in which she said that he violently raped her. And in 2017, after Trump won the election, Harry Hurt, the author of that book, was playing a round of golf at Mar-a-Lago. And while playing with the billionaire Koch brothers on this course, Trump came up to him. He shook his hand and said, "Congratulations, sir." And Trump said, "You were really rough on me, Harry, really rough. That beep you wrote." To which Harry Hurt replied, "It's all true." And then Trump said, "Not in the way you wrote it. Not in the way you wrote it." Y'all, we don't need Ghislaine Maxwell to testify in front of Congress. In fact, we shouldn't let her testify in front of Congress because everything she's...
Let's go back to that one.
See that Donald Trump used his grandchildren as a shield, as if the proxy golf at Mar-a-Lago. And while playing with the billionaire Koch brothers on this course, Trump came up to him. He shook his hand and said, "Congratulations, sir." And Trump said, "You were really rough on me, Harry, really rough. That beep you wrote." To which Harry Hurt replied, "It's all true." And then Trump said, "Not in the way you wrote it. Not in the way you wrote it."
How crazy is that?
Y'all, we don't need Ghislaine Maxwell to testify in front of Congress. In fact, we shouldn't let her testify in front of Congress because everything she said could be a lie. What we need to start demanding is that they release the Maxwell tapes. Because according to Tom, over 2 days and 9 hours, Maxwell was completely honest. And she didn't refuse to answer a single question. So we don't need her for Congress. Ghislaine Maxwell currently has an appeal for her case heading to the Supreme Court right now. All she's going to do is claim that she's a victim. Right? Ghislaine Maxwell can't admit to committing these crimes if she still has an appeal going through the Supreme Court. So obviously her public take is going to be that she's innocent. But Ghislaine Maxwell was returned to her Tallahassee federal prison carrying a big box. Reportedly, she did not have this box when she went there. So what in the hell could the DOJ have given her to take back to her prison? And these are the exact kind of answers that also would circumvent the whole "we can't release the files." Now they don't have to release the files. All they have to do is release the tapes and redact the victims' names. Release the Maxwell tapes. Well, it's official. Ghislaine Maxwell was granted partial immunity by Trump. But not only is she protected for her answers, but the possibility of a full pardon is still on the damn table. Why do you think he ran away to go golfing in Scotland today? But one of the last things he said before he left was that he was allowed to pardon Ghislaine Maxwell, which just furthers my theory that the little birthday book that we've all been hearing about, yeah, that's the list. That is some form of the list. And there is not a damn word that Ghislaine Maxwell now will say.
Oh, sorry, you guys. You want to refresh it? There we go.
Well, it's official. Ghislaine Maxwell was granted partial immunity by Trump. But not only is she protected for her answers, but the possibility of a full pardon is still on the damn table. Why do you think he ran away to go golfing in Scotland today? But one of the last things he said before he left was that he was allowed to pardon Ghislaine Maxwell, which just furthers my theory that the little birthday book that we've all been hearing about, yeah, that's the list. That is some form of the list. And there is not a damn word that Ghislaine Maxwell now will say that we should believe. Because not only is she going to omit Trump from all of this, but now she's going to give us fake names. And I'm going to go ahead and guess that they are political opponents of Trump. Are you happy now, MAGA? Are you starting to understand that us liberals have been trying to tell you who?
Okay. Before we start again here, this particular live show is definitely different. You know, G-Paul, I see you've been very communicative. Thank you very much. You're about the only one. I just want to further validate everything that I've been saying in terms of Donald Trump and Epstein. She goes deeper. I went deep, but she goes deeper than I've gone to. I mean, her deepness is so threatening that I am praying for her protection. because she goes through the flight log. She put connections together in terms of Obama. Why did Donald Trump suddenly go after Obama? And then you're gonna start learning Donald Trump's little MO. Anyone who finds him threatening, anyone who's trying to investigate him regarding the Epstein or anything illegal, he goes after them. He tried to ruin their reputation, which is what he's doing currently for Letitia James. Letitia James, I think her name Letitia or whatever. That's what he's currently doing to her because she was investigating him. She's the one who won that case for $400 million for that lady. That's why he's having his DOJ to go after her. Not going to find anything, but you can't trust the Republican Party. If they don't find anything, they're going to more than likely make up something. Trump has to be stopped. He's literally concocting and organizing his own little criminal, I don't know, crew in the White House. He rigged the election, get into the White House with the help of Putin and Musk. And he's trying to stay in the White House by using illegal sources, with that stupid bill and trying to edit or modify the Constitution so he can stay in the White House so he don't have to go to jail. And you are right, G. Paul. If Trump's daughters would talk, they can lynch him. But money apparently means anything to these little greedy, naive, stupid girls, the morality and the truth. Because if I was freaking Ivanka, no way in Sam hell, I'd be allowing this, especially if I had a daughter, allowing this. But you know what? I guess she cares about money more than her mom, her morality, her sense of integrity. I know she's popping pills because no way in hell she can be running around here all cognitive and, normal after enduring all the crap that she endured. But you know what? Maybe she's stupid. I don't really know. I don't know. But listen to the rest of her show and please share. Please share because she goes very, very deep, seriously. But let me go back here. I need to go back to her page because it just suddenly came into this little whatever this is. Okay, I need to. Where did I leave off on here? I don't remember where I left off on. What? Oh, okay, 26. The Black Book. Did we do the Black Book, you guys? Let me see. Okay, we did. Oh, the pardon community. Okay, we just start from 729. We start with 729. Well, actually, we'll start with 725 because she's talking about Ghislaine Maxwell and being partly immunity. So we'll start there. Oh, I'm glad you've been watching me, G. Paul.
Well, it's official. Ghislaine Maxwell was granted partial immunity by Trump. Not only is she protected for her answers, but the possibility of a full pardon is still on the damn table. Why do you think he ran away to go golfing in Scotland today? But one of the last things he said before he left was that he was allowed to pardon Ghislaine Maxwell, which just furthers my theory that the little birthday book that we've all been hearing about, yeah, that's the list. That is some form of the list. And there is not a damn word that Ghislaine Maxwell now will say that we should believe. Because not only is she going to omit Trump from all of this, but now she's going to give us fake names. And I'm going to go ahead and guess that they are political opponents of Trump. Are you happy now, MAGA? Are you starting to understand that us liberals have been trying to tell you who Trump really was for the last decade? Maybe, just maybe, if you had listened to us 10 years ago, or listened to the 27 women who came forward, or maybe, just maybe, you should have listened to E.G. and Carol, especially after a jury found that Trump was liable for sexual abuse and ordered him to pay $5 million third. Maybe they did that because there was some evidence. Now this monster is going to go free, and your buddy is right there unlocking the fucking door. Mm-hmm. Everybody's talking about the I never got the privilege to go to the island part of this interview, but why isn't anybody talking about the fact that Donald Trump changed his story?
For years, I wouldn't talk to Jeffrey Epstein. I wouldn't talk because he did something that was inappropriate. He hired help. I said, don't ever do that again. He stole people that worked for me. I said, don't ever do that again. He did it again. And I threw him out of the place, persona non grata. I threw him out. And that was it.
It seems to me that Trump forgot that their official story was that he and Jeffrey Epstein's relationship soured because of a beachfront property. But the official story since 2019, after Jeffrey Epstein's arrest, has been that they stopped being friends over a real estate deal gone bad, which happened in 2004. The property trustee told Business Insider that Epstein had said that Donald couldn't pay for the mansion, that he was all talk and didn't have the money. And in November 2004, Trump ended up winning the auction, and less than 2 weeks later, Palm Beach received a tip about young women coming and going from Epstein's house. And that's according to the deposition of the then police chief. Now, a lot of you might not remember this, but Page 6 used to be like the socialite section of newspapers. It was basically a gossip column that's talking about the lives of the rich and famous and their ins and outs. Now, in 2007, Page 6 reported that Epstein had been banned from Trump's Mar-a-Lago. A source said that he would try to use the spa to procure girls and tried to get 18-year-old masseuses to do things. Yeah, that tracks. But that's not the language that Trump used.
He hired help. And I said, don't ever do that again. He stole people that work for me.
Now let's read between the lines of that for just a second. This source in 2007 said that Epstein was trying to procure girls and tried to get 18-year-old masseuses to do things. Yet Trump says that he was stealing employees from him. And if anything, it sounds like you were doing the same thing with your girls in your spa that Epstein was doing at home. Listen to this excerpt from Katie Johnson's lawsuit from 2016, one that was corroborated by 2 different people, one of them that actually worked for Epstein. After being essayed by Epstein, she was still in the room when Epstein and Trump started arguing over who got to take her virginity. Trump was clearly upset, referring to defendant Epstein as a pew bastard. As he yelled at defendant Epstein that clearly he, defendant Trump, should be the lucky one to pop the cherry. Don't forget, her story was backed up by one of Jeffrey Epstein's former employees who helped him get girls. But here's the kicker and the real reason that he was kicked out of Mar-a-Lago. Because according to a book that came out in 2020, The Grifters Club, Jeffrey Epstein was only banned from the club because he hit on a member of the club's daughter. That's not poaching employees. That's you're afraid he's going to get caught because he's still trying to recruit from Mar-a-Lago like you've let him do for years. Do not stop talking about this. Jeffrey Epstein kept a diary of his underage victims, and it is in the possession of the FBI. At this point, we've all seen this little black book of Epstein's, but what if I were to tell you that this book did not come from his first prosecution? The book was actually stolen by his Palm Beach butler, Alfredo Rodriguez. He said he stole it because he was afraid for his life, and it was his insurance. Epstein's sweetheart deal was negotiated in September of 2007. Rodriguez was not only a witness to what his boss was doing in Palm Beach, but he also helped clean them up. In 2009, after Epstein's sentence, he was caught trying to sell the little black book to the victims. In 2011, he was sentenced to 18 months in prison for trying to sell this. And yes, you guessed it, shortly after being released from prison, he died at age 60 in 2015 from mesothelioma. And according to the prosecuting lawyers in 2011, they called this the Holy Grail. Prosecutors said it detailed the full scope and the extent of Epstein's involvement with underage girls. Having a bunch of names and phone numbers in your address book is not a smoking gun. So why would this be considered a smoking gun if there was more to it than just names and phone numbers? It's also said that Mr. Rodriguez tried to sell a journal that documented his boss's exploits and refused to turn it over when investigators first asked for it. This is not a journal, and in no way does it document any exploits. Not only that, but there was apparently DNA swabs taken from Epstein's toys that matched John's. What if I told you that there is a second a woman found it on the sidewalk in Manhattan in 1997. So it actually predates the little black book that we know about. Apparently in 2020, she put it in her storage unit, which she recently had been cleaning out, rediscovered the book, and then realized
Sorry about that, guys. I go back a little bit.
1997. So it actually predates the little black book that we know about. Apparently in 2020, she put it in her storage unit, which she recently had been cleaning out, rediscovered the book, and then realized it belonged to Epstein. Ended up selling it on eBay for $400 to this guy, Christopher Halali, who ran for Congress in Vermont. In 2021, he had Business Insider authenticate the little black book. They brought in experts who looked through it and authenticated it. And you can tell that it's literally different than the other book that we know about. look at the exact same things, but different format, different pages, different font. It seems like this book is much more specific and a lot more damning than the previous one. Like this one, it has some reference to ugly back and a couple here in a row that say facial. But if you look at this particular page on the auction website closer, you can see that there's some sort of a price right here. Just in April, this little black book was sold at auction for only $10,000. So now my question is, why the F is this book not in the possession of the FBI right now? Who has this book right now? Ghislaine Maxwell had a plant inside of the Palm Beach Police Department, and she absolutely honeypotted this entire investigation. This is Joseph Reckery, and he was the chief investigator in the Jeffrey Epstein case in Palm Beach, Florida. In 2006, he told the grand jury that they started this investigation in 2005 when a mother of a teenage girl reported what Epstein had been doing. It should surprise absolutely no one that Joe Reckery is inside Epstein's little black book. And it should surprise you even less that he is dead. He died in 2018 at age 50 from a brief illness. After some extensive digging, I found out that brief illness was actually his sleep apnea. You know who else had sleep apnea? Guess who had a sleep apnea machine every night plugged in for them for the last 9 days of their life? This video isn't about Detective Joe because you see right here, the very first person under Palm Beach Police is Jennifer Bruno, cop hire / pal, is typed into the phone book. Now, what if I told you that Jennifer Bruno was Joseph Reckery's wife? Joe Reckery met his wife through the police department. She was the spokesman for the Palm Beach Police Department as part of their business and community relations. She started that job in 2003. He and Joseph got married in 2008. That means they were together when he was investigating Jeffrey Epstein. Now, what if I told you that in the document drop from January, not a single affidavit that was used in the Jeffrey Epstein case from 2005 to 2006, not a single one mentions Ghislaine Maxwell. Not a one. They named Haley Robinson. They named Sarah Keller, but not Ghislaine. Joseph Reckery even came out and said that he believed that Epstein was tipped off about one of their searches. And they moved all the incriminating things like the computers that held the client lists into a vault at Epstein's attorney. Oh, but we're not done with the weirdness because Jennifer Bruno in 2012 left her post with the police department and started working at the Police Foundation. Now let's see if you can guess where the Palm Beach Police Foundation's ball was held. Guess what year they started holding the policeman's ball at Mar-a-Lago? 2006. The same year Epstein was arrested. Side quest real quick, because in 2011, another gala was held at Mar-a-Lago called the Karen's Florida Gala. Now, the chairman for that gala was Petra Levin. Donald Trump was the honorary chairman. Now, Petra is married to Stephen Levin, who is the CEO of Gold Coast Beverages. The very next year, in 2012, Jennifer Bruno takes over for the Police Foundation ball. The same year that Joe Reckery is given Officer of the Year by the Police Foundation. And the next year, Joe retired and started working in the private sector of the Gold Coast Beverage Distributor. Now, what if I told you just this year that gala is honoring founding dean and professor for the Florida Atlantic University School of Social Work and Criminal Justice? Guess where Jennifer Reckery went to school? This man was the dean of Florida Atlantic University from 1991 to 2002. And the reason he left the university is because he got a fucking job at the Department of Justice. I also found it very weird that Jennifer Bruno only had one other job before she got that police job, and it was an office manager for this random company that is very mysterious. Some sort of baby product packaging company that just so happens to have a very similar logo to this software company based out of Germany. I'll tell you, my blood ran cold because on their homepage, when I clicked on the English button, this was the front fucking page. Innovative solutions in traffic engineering. This is their About Us page. And despite being founded in the 80s, I have been able to find absolutely no trace of anybody even close to this name. Weird for an international CEO. Oh. And the worst part of all, not only is Jennifer Reckery now working for a school district in Tennessee, not only was her current home bought by a living trust in her husband's name, but the last activity on Jennifer Bruno's LinkedIn was liking an article about Virginia Jeffries unaliving. What I'm about to tell you scared me enough that I contemplated not making this video. So just to let you know, I am in no way thinking of harming myself or in any health concerns. This is Jean-Luc Brunel, and he used to run a French modeling agency. He used to run a company called Next Model Management, but in 1995, he broke off from that and started Karen Models. John Luke was basically Epstein's partner in crime and trafficking girls all over the world. 2005, he created a parallel modeling agency that ran out of Miami, New York, and Israel. And who was the $1 million investor behind this company? Jeffrey Epstein. At this point, it should surprise no one that in 2022, he was found dead inside of his cell while he was waiting charges over the rape of minors under the age of 15. Now, many of us know Melania somehow mysteriously received an Einstein visa. Now, the EB-1 Einstein visa is normally reserved for people who are highly acclaimed in their field. To be frank, Melania does not meet any of the requirements for this visa. Out of the 65,000 of those visas that are awarded every year, she was one of only 5 people in Slovenia to get one. Now, what if I told you that Jeffrey Epstein considered himself a science philanthropist? He called himself a science hobbyist, funded millions of dollars worth of scientific research, and carefully curated a whole network of scientists for whom he threw group activities for. I tell you this because Jeffrey Epstein wanted to use selective breeding to, plant his seed all over. I'm not going to get into that in this video, but there are other videos that have been made on TikTok about it. I tell you that because in the early days of Albert Einstein's career, he also had an interest in selective breeding, which brings us back to Epstein's modeling company, MC2. Epstein, Einstein, MC2, MC squared, E equals MC squared, Einstein visa. Now, that Einstein visa has not always been around. It was actually introduced as part of the Immigration Act of 1990. I had to go on the government website to read the history of the bill. Now, it was signed into law in 1990 by George H. Bush and first introduced by Senator Ted Kennedy in 1989. Yes, this Ted Kennedy. Yes, this Ted Kennedy. Yes, this Ted Kennedy, who literally unalived a woman and waited 10 hours to call for help. The same Ted Kennedy who just a year later testified in a grape trial where his nephew, William Kennedy Black, was accused by a woman, Patricia Bowman, of violently raping her in 1991. And why was he testifying? Because Ted Kennedy was with his nephew when they picked this woman up from the bar and she gave them a ride home. The whole night had been Ted Kennedy's idea. Now, you may be asking yourself, well, that's all fine and good, but how does this have anything to do with Epstein? What if I were to tell you that the lawyer who defended the nephew in that trial was Roy Black? As in Roy Black, Epstein lawyer who died 3 days ago. Because despite being a senator for Massachusetts, this rape was in West Palm Beach. But what if I told you that Melania Trump sued the Daily Mail over her escort allegation? For essentially, they implied that she was a madam. Paolo Zampoli was the modeling agent that Melania was signed with when she was here in America and met Trump for the first time. And famously, Epstein has claimed that the first time Trump and Melania, was on his plane on the Lolita Express. Melania and Trump met in 1998. And then in 1999, when they were still dating, Trump then formed Trump's Models. And yes, one of the first models to come on board was Melania. And where is Melania's old agent, Paolo Zampoli, now? Well, in 2019, Trump appointed him to the Kennedy Center Board. The Kennedy Center that Trump now wants to rename after Melania after getting booed while going there. Our government is so deeply embedded in this Jeffrey Epstein thing that I'm starting to think that that genius grant was literally introduced as a way for them to traffic women into our country. Well, I just accidentally stumbled onto a whole new fucked up branch of the Epstein Florida government conspiracy. In August 2019, 10 days after Epstein's death, Caitlin Doe sued the trust of Epstein. I was originally going to make a video going into this complaint and talking about how Epstein made his own victims marry his other victims for green cards. Just now, I was finishing up my background research. I accidentally stumbled onto something huge. So much so I started crying. We all remember the Epstein sweetheart deal, right? Well, in 2008, he was still trafficking and abusing victims from his work release. Jeffrey Epstein told the court he was going to be working at his Florida Science Foundation nonprofit. And he went there every day because he had an ankle monitor on. And he would come back in the weekends to go and do his jail time. Now, Caitlin Doe had already been ensnared because Jeffrey Epstein had said he would pay for her education, as well as $20,000 for a surgery she needed. While he was working at his work release, he got in contact with her, started doing more things, etc., etc. But then he convinced her in 2009 to come work for him at the defendant Florida Science Foundation. She was living in New York, so he specifically got her on a plane to come down to Palm Beach and tricked her so that he could go and abuse her in his office. Caitlin Doe also had a relative who worked for that foundation with Jeffrey Epstein, and she said that he was constantly in contact with his associates in New York to recruit, transport, solicit, and harbor young females for the purpose of engaging in, Now, Epstein's thing, it was on the 14th floor. And I'm like, that's a huge building. What else is in that building? Because obviously he wanted to spend all of his time there. He knew there had to be some angle. And it was way more difficult than you would think trying to figure out what businesses were being run out of there. And then my blood ran cold. Guess what's on the second floor of that building? The State of Florida Department of Administrative Hearings. And while I was researching what this department did, stumbled onto this little nugget. According to the government website, this division is not a constitutional agency, though it is located in the Department of Management Services, and it is not explicitly a separate government. It is responsible directly to the governor and the cabinet. Then you keep reading down here and it says the division is a separate budget entity. It is funded, however, entirely from trust funds rather than general revenue. And 85% of these judges' panel's docket is 9 different agencies. Guess which one is also included in these 9 agencies? The Department of Children and Family Services. And you want to guess who the governor of Florida was from 1999 to 2007? Jeb Bush. Yep. That Jeb Bush. But that's not the worst part. And frankly, I almost missed it. One of the businesses in that building, Elite Youth Association, Inc. This is literally the only thing I could find for Elite Youth Association. When it comes to Jeffrey Epstein, there's no fucking coincidences. Frankly, I need more people's help on this one. If you think that Epstein's sweetheart deal was bad, wait until you find out that the state attorney's office literally tried to throw the whole case away in front of the grand jury so that Epstein would not be indicted for anything. Last July 2024, they actually unsealed the grand jury transcripts. I had read statements by Joseph Reckery, the lead detective who testified in the grand jury, saying that he was confused by the proceedings because he showed up to those grand jury proceedings with thousands of pages of evidence in a binder and wasn't asked about most of it. And even though there were 30 witnesses that came forward, 30 children who reported their abuse, they only brought 2 in front of the grand jury. And what's absolutely fucked is while these girls were on the stand, they did things like accuse them of being prostitutes, confronted them for smoking and drinking on their MySpace pages. At one point, the prosecutor accused one of the witnesses of lying to Epstein and saying that she was 18. And then they put Jensen Ross on the stand, who's the lead investigator for the state attorney, who just so happened to work in Palm Beach until 1993 in the police department. And he talks about how these minor victim children were in like rehab and stuff. One of the witnesses even said that the MySpace page they were showing her was fake. She was like, my MySpace page is way cooler than that. And the state investigator was like, no. From my investigation, it looks like this is a real page. Because the age would change in correlation to her birthday. In 2004, they literally caught an underage girl in the parking lot of Jeffrey Epstein's mansion. The cop overheard her lie to her mother and tell her that she was in school. At one point, one of the grand jurors was thanking one of the girls for being so brave and doing the right thing, and the prosecutor kept cutting her off and telling her to ask a question. Midway through this investigation, the entire tone changed thanks to Barry Krishner, who was the state attorney at the time. In May, the police signed a probable cause affidavit charging Epstein and 2 of his assistants with multiple crimes, but instead Barry Krishner decided that he was going to send it to a grand jury, and they only had 1 witness testify. After that, they charged him with solicitation of a prostitute. During that time, Alan Dershowitz goes to the investigators with those MySpace profile pages and says, look at what these girls were doing. Originally, the grand jury was supposed to take place in February of 2006, was postponed after the state's attorney met with Alan Dershowitz about those MySpace pictures. And by May, Joseph Reckery hadn't heard anything from the State Department. They also requested arrest warrants for Sarah Kellen and Haley Robinson. They kept refusing to sign off on these warrants. Finally, a second grand jury was requested for July, and that's when Joseph Reckery found out that one of the victims' mothers had never even been contacted by the state attorney. Reckery's partner, Detective Ryder, said early on it became clear that things had changed, from Krishner saying, we'll put this guy away for life, to these are all the reasons we aren't going to prosecute this. And even though defense attorneys aren't allowed to be represented in the grand jury testimony, they clearly were doing their work for them. Joseph Reckery talked about all this in his first interview, March 2nd, 2018, and he was suddenly dead by May 25th. Don't forget, I already did a whole expose about how his wife was a plant. That's her right there. Y'all, there is so much more hidden in these grand jury transcripts. For the last day, I have been poring over every piece of document I could find related to Epstein's case. And while looking through 118 pages of his flight log, I've noticed that not only is there things missing, but they are intentionally redacted and not in the government kind of way. More like we're trying to erase the presence of people kind of way. The most obvious example of this is from this flight log, which starts in November of 2005. This is when Alan Dershowitz's name first appears on these flight logs, which just happens to be a month after the search warrant on his Palm Beach mansion was executed. But down here in January of 2006, you'll notice this nice little blank space with a comma on either side of it. Now, I've studied almost a decade of flight logs, and that doesn't happen anywhere else. In fact, the pilot specifically crosses off names of people who decide not to go. So I did my thing. I went in and I played around with the exposure, and look, you can see right there in that blank space that someone has clearly erased something. You can't see it. Turn up the brightness on your phone because you can see these very clear erase marks. Not enough for you? Well, take a look at where Alan Dershowitz's name first appears that I showed you earlier. What's that? What is going on here? What is going on there? Looks like somebody was having some Photoshop fails. And in fact, this looks like a P or maybe a D that was drawn over. Clearly something was erased under here and under here. But here's the scary part, because if you're not looking for it, they try to pull one over on you. See how there's no passengers here on this flight log from August of 2001? No passengers. Now let's go to this April 2002 flight log. See how it's from April 1st through April 8th. So on April 1st, they go from Palm Beach to Tisk. Now, Tisk is the Virgin Islands airport. It's the only airport on the island. It's flight number 78. And it's got Jeffrey Epstein, 3 of his accomplices, and then just 2 females. The next day, they go from Epstein Island to Palm Beach, flight 79. Nobody on it. And from Palm Beach, they go to Washington International Airport. From Washington International Airport back to Palm Beach. Again, no passengers are listed. Then suddenly on April 8th, they're going from Palm Beach to JFK Airport. Suddenly, Jeffrey Epstein is in Palm Beach, when the last time we saw him on a flight log was he was in the Virgin Islands still. So how do you get back to Palm Beach? And why are they sending an empty airplane all these places, especially an international airport? Not even just that, the flight log all of a sudden goes from 81 to whatever this number is supposed to be. You can clearly see what was a 2, then turned into a 4. And I think they ended on a 7. I'm not sure. This is far from the only example of these disappearing flights, because look at this one. Jeffrey Epstein goes to Tisk. Nobody comes back from the Virgin Islands. They go to the Palm Beach, but then look, there he is again. I mean, there's stuff like this. Somebody clearly tried to white out that name, which makes me even more suspicious of the flight logs that look like this, because that looks like a photocopy of a photocopy. This looks like the original. I think the scariest part of these flight logs, though, are the fact that they're so meticulous in documenting who's all on there. Then they'll have these entries like 2 females, and then there's almost never rides home for these unnamed passengers. I think there's a lot of girls whose disappeared bodies we'll never find. And I can tell you that the videos I'm going to make today are going to get worse from here. Y'all, I'm clearly getting too close with my Jeffrey Epstein coverage because I'm getting my videos taken down like, whoa. Specifically this one about Epstein's connection to the Kennedys, which just so happens to be the video where I say that I am in good health and intend no harm. That being said, I found even more Photoshop fails related to the flight logs. I pointed out this one yesterday. Take a look right here at this broken line on the 40. We've got it again right here with this 3. Take a look at the thickness of these lines compared to the rest of the lines. Oh, and take a look at this comma. Like, look at this broken 6. I didn't do anything to these logs. This is just how they came. But are we really surprised at this point, considering this administration has made it its mission to rewrite history and exclude people? Trump literally just forced the Smithsonian Museum to remove his impeachments from the record. The presidential exhibit about impeachment. Museum officials said that this was a part of a review about the institution's content for bias. It's not bias. It happened. They not only came out and said that they are trying to whitewash the exhibits at the Smithsonian, saying it had come under the influence of a divisive race-centered ideology, and Trump has called on J.D. Vance, who's a member of the Smithsonian board, who work with Congress to prohibit expenditures on exhibits or programs that degrade shared American values, divide Americans by race, or promote ideologies inconsistent with federal law. It's a museum. It doesn't promote anything. Well, there we go, folks. Straight from Aaron Carnes himself, the FBI was in the process of redacting Donald Trump's name from the files when they announced that there were no files. The sources inside the FBI are trying to tell y'all the call is coming from inside the house. That's why they keep leaking this information. I mean, what was the point in even trying to black out this stuff? This information has already been out there. Oh, but their reasoning for blacking out Donald Trump is because he was a high-profile individual, was a private citizen when the federal investigation of Epstein launched in 2006. So every politician was a private individual before they were in politics. Once you become a public figure, your right to privacy no longer exists. And if we're going by that standard, why release any of the names? If you're seriously still defending Trump in all of this, just remember he literally just gave a job to someone who is convicted of raping a 16-year-old girl. Man is a registered S offender who was just arrested last year for failing to register as an S offender when he moved to Florida. And the man admits himself he's not exactly qualified or sure what he's doing in the White House.
This name, I don't know why. I don't know what we're supposed to be doing, but I'm here to serve. I'm here to serve you. Okay, so I'm gonna do the best I can for as long as I can. Thank you very much.
Nobody like it.
And Linda McMahon makes this a complete predator sandwich because, as we all remember, I'm sure, Linda McMahon is literally embroiled in a lawsuit currently about her and her husband trafficking children. Oh, my babies, they are scared of me because in 7 minutes, they took down this video. I'm going to have to be very effing careful about how I talk about this because an ex-CIA whistleblower has come forward who was a part of a national security audit. And he says that not only did he drastically fail the 2024 pizza party, but international crime organizations directly related to these two fixed it to smuggle people. Adam Zarnowski, who is part of 20 years of a paramilitary ex-CIA group that directly worked on the front lines trying to stop trafficking all over the world, who wrote the literal book on the subject. But yesterday, in his first official interview, he said, in December 2024, I was personally involved in the NSA authorized forensic audit of the 2024 pizza party. Harris and Tim succeeded by a wide margin. Trump did not dramatically. There are multiple layers of complexity to this cover-up, including transnational organized crime syndicates that extend far beyond the United States and our pizza party. To that point, I work in the human trafficking sector, which intersects with the stolen pizza party and has ties to Trump and Epstein, not to President Biden, Vice President Harris, or Governor Walz, but to the Democrats and other allied interests responsible for burying the audit. No, he's not just pushing a book because it's available for free. None of the things he even talks about are classified, and he is fully prepared to testify under oath about them. Clearly don't want this information out, so it needs to be spread to everybody. This just breaking news, folks. Michael Wolff, the biographer for Donald Trump, who spent over 100 hours with Jeffrey Epstein, just released a tape of Jeffrey Epstein play acting how Donald Trump would cuckold people's wives.
He said, and he said, what's it like to do that? He said, you like it? You like it? How long do you live? He said, it's great. Seriously, how long do you live? We don't want to go. You and I can go upstairs or tomorrow, come over. There's this girl coming in Los Angeles, probably Hawaiian. So come over here. You're gonna have a great time. I promise you, man. Just be up here for you upstairs. Come on, you must. And you must right. Yes, yes. Tell me that. And the lights on the speakerphone, listen, down, so, I know you can. I can do your top. And I know you think that that might go like the end of the world. That's kind of like the world be there to get along. Just listen to the next 20 minutes.
Y'all understand what just happened there, right? Epstein said that Trump would take friends, arrange for them to sleep with women like models in competitions, then use those women as a honeypot, in order to get in good with his friends' wives so he can sleep with them. So Trump would traffic women in order to trick other women by emotionally manipulating them. Absolutely disgusting. Y'all want to know what the most effed up part about Ghislaine Maxwell being transferred to a minimum security prison is? No, it's not the fact that she won't be behind bars because the doors don't have them. No, it won't be the fact that there's a hair salon in this prison. No, it won't be that they have a craft room / computer lab. No, it's not the fact that this place has a game room. No, it's not the fact that she's going to be housed with white-collar criminals and low-level drug offenders. It's the fact that that's the last bargaining chip they could have used. When was the last time you saw a convicted criminal rewarded for threatening to not tell the truth? And just so that we're perfectly clear, the real reason that she was transferred to that prison in particular, it wasn't the amenities, is because it's easier to communicate with the outside. And if some of y'all out there think there's no way he would pardon her, in case you haven't figured it out by now, this whole prison thing is rehabilitating people and giving them the skills to reintegrate back into society. They're all about education and vocation training. Yeah, this is one of those prisons where the inmates train service animals for other people. This monster doesn't deserve a fucking second of comfort. Well, let's not forget about Diddy's role in all this, because the White House is in talks with his legal team about a potential pardon. How are some of you still supporting him? He didn't win. He's in the files.
Yeah, he didn't win.
So y'all know that Elon Musk is absolutely part of the Epstein crime syndicate, right? So y'all know that Elon Musk is absolutely part of the Epstein crime syndicate, right? This photo of Elon Musk with Ghislaine Maxwell at a 2014 Oscar party is just the tip of the iceberg, even though he claims that this was a photo bomb and he didn't actually know her. How this story goes is apparently Jeffrey Epstein was interested in making contact with Elon Musk, so he befriended his brother Kimball. Then he got one of his victims to become his girlfriend. And even though Elon denies that he knows Epstein, a email surfaced from 2016. And even though it's never been proven whether this email is true or not, claims that Elon and Ghislaine were doing kung fu practice together. And frankly, the email sounds exactly like both of them. In 2019, apparently Jeffrey Epstein was claiming that he was helping Elon Musk find a new Tesla chairman. And it was rumored that his ex-wife, Tallulah Riley, was actually set up by Ghislaine Maxwell. And of course, both of them claim that this isn't true, with Elon saying that I was only in his Manhattan house for 30 minutes because of an appointment. My ex-wife was curious about meeting this strange person for a novel she was writing. Elon is absolutely following Epstein's blueprint with the ranch and the children and the babies but y'all know that Elon Musk was literally subpoenaed by the Virgin Islands for their lawsuit against JP Morgan in 2023, a subpoena that he apparently ignored and never actually answered to. Oh, did I forget to mention that Elon Musk said that Epstein invited him to his island many, many times and he always refused? Well, the Virgin Islands was subpoenaing him for any documents and financial transactions between him and Epstein. They even asked for any documents that were related to any human trafficking or the procurement of girls or women. Not only is he currently in the middle of a lawsuit with 8 former employees suing him for sexual harassment in the workplace, where one of the women flat out said in 2016 he invited her to a party, but Elon Musk literally paid a flight attendant $250,000 for her silence after he sexually harassed her on his plane. Let's see if this sounds familiar to y'all. Flight attendant was asked to go to Musk's cabin during a flight to London to give a full body massage. Upon entering the room, she found Musk was completely nude except for a sheet covering the lower half of his body. The declaration says that during the massage, Musk exposed himself and touched her and offered to buy her a horse if she would do more. It is literally a move straight out of Epstein's fucking playbook. And the whole horse angle is even creepier aspect of it, considering that Elon Musk said in an interview, "You breed horses. People are the same." And yesterday he posted this video on Twitter promoting Grok. He's getting dragged in the comment section like no one's happy about it. I guarantee you that this man got that Trump is in the Epstein files straight from the horse's mouth. Breaking news in the dead of night, y'all. The Clinton, both Bill and Hillary, were subpoenaed to testify in front of Congress about Epstein. Good. I'm glad. Bring them all in front of Congress. I don't care at this point. And a source inside the Justice Department said Ghislaine Maxwell told the DOJ that Trump never did anything around her. Not that he wasn't involved, just that he never did anything around her. And the Clintons weren't the only ones who got subpoenas. Apparently, a lot of other high-profile people did as well. The other people who have been invited to these sessions are Merrick Garland, William Barr, Jeff Sessions, Loretta Lynch, Eric Holder, Alberto Gonzalez, James Comey, Robert Mueller III. What does piss me off is the Republican-led House Committee is going to have closed-door sessions for these people. Congressional testimony is going to start this month, going through October, and October 14th is when Bill Clinton is expected to take the stand. But in all honesty, we don't need that because it turns out I was correct, and the interview with Maxwell was in fact recorded. And according to this source inside the DOJ, the Trump administration is considering publicly releasing the transcripts from the interview. Considering? Why not just do it? They made a big old show about trying to get the grand jury transcripts released, even though they knew that a judge would never do that. And yet here they have transcripts that they could easily release and that they are considering it. Come on, MAGA, step up. We're stepping up. We subpoenaed our people because predators shouldn't be protected no matter whose political party they're affiliated with. It's as simple as that. Not a single one of us are defending these people. So why are you defending the president? You know, the guy who has actual Epstein victims accusing him. Jeffrey Epstein was working with the FBI in exchange for his sweetheart deal, and I can prove it. Turns out there's an FBI vault where they keep all of their notes related to Epstein's case. In September of 2008, Epstein came to that agreement with the state of Florida, and the FBI sent out a little internal memo. Epstein is currently being prosecuted by the state of Florida and is complying with all conditions of his plea with the state of Florida. Epstein has also provided information to the FBI as agreed upon. Case agent advised that no federal prosecution will occur in this matter as long as Epstein continues to uphold his agreement with the state of Florida. Now, while poring over these documents, I stumbled upon a name that I don't know if they forgot to black out. Pretty weird that I haven't heard this name, considering they seem to be a major player in the Epstein case. Now,
Hit
here's
the like
the
button,
thing
guys.
about Assistant United States Attorney Antonia Barnes. Y'all remember when I said that there was something fishy about the location of Jeffrey Epstein's work release? You know, besides the fact that a major trafficking operation was being run inside of it. Well, remember when I said it was really hard to actually figure out what was located in here? But I did figure out that the second floor was the Department of Hearings. Well, in the FBI vault, I found a subpoena with Antonia Barnes' office address on it. And to my shock, guess where it is? The fourth floor of 500 South Australian Drive. Oh, and guess what? It was Obama's DOJ that reopened the Epstein case in 2010. And all of Obama's DOJ investigation are the files that they are refusing to release. Because out of 1,380 pages that I went through, there are only 2 documents past 2008. And here's the best part about this. The case was reassigned in January 2010. Investigation is clearly in full swing mid-2010 with these FOIA requests. By April 2011, they sent a request for more funding so they could get more printer ink. And just so coincidentally, in early 2011, years after Obama had already been in office, is when Trump went on television and started suggesting that Obama wasn't born in this country. In fact, do me a favor, check out the date on this memo. Now let's check out the date in which Trump started making his claims. While at the exact same time weighing his own run for the White House. I have been suspecting for a while that the real reason that Trump is obsessed with undoing everything Obama did is because he knew that Obama was investigating him. His plan was to literally discredit Obama years before it all came out. It's not a coincidence that he threw out this Russian hoax thing. He's planting a seed that Obama's DOJ are liars. So, Trump was trying to steal the Epstein files, right? Like, that's what this was. At this point, we're all sure of it, right? I know the classified documents case seems like a million years ago at this point, but it's becoming more relevant now more than ever. You see, Trump thought he would win in 2020. That's why he tried so hard to overturn that election with the January 6th insurrection. So when he lost, he panicked. He took the Epstein files with him and tried to hide them at Mar-a-Lago. And some of them he hides in New Jersey in his summer home. By May, they realize the documents are missing, start showing them around to people, and Trump gives the National Archives some of their boxes back. But by March 2022, the FBI has to open an investigation. They go through grand juries and subpoenas trying to get these boxes back, and he refuses. Trump is even instructing his lawyer to take out anything bad from these files. It was then on August 8th, 2022, that they raided Mar-a-Lago. Oh, and if you think I'm being far-fetched here, let's just go look at the warrant. Listed on the warrant includes the federal law that makes it a crime to destroy or conceal a document in order to obstruct a government investigation. We were all distracted by the espionage part of the warrant and didn't even think about the crimes that he was trying to conceal at the time. Then in November, Attorney General Merrick Garland tapped Jack Smith to lead the investigation. Unfortunately, the judge who was presiding over the case, Judge Eileen Cannon, who was a Trump appointee in 2020, well, she had tried to appoint a special master instead of having somebody come in from the Justice Department to go through these classified documents. However, a panel of judges overturned that. Trump's trial for the classified documents case was supposed to start May 4th, but Eileen Cannon delayed it indefinitely for literally no reason other than waiting until after the election. It's almost like they knew what was going to happen. She threw out the case after Trump was elected. And by the way, don't know if you know this, from 2013 to 2020, she served as the assistant U.S. attorney for the Southern District of Florida. So yes, Trump appointed this woman a federal judge after only 7 years of lawyer experience. Yep, she also worked in the same building as Epstein. Oh, and not only was she on the short list for the attorney general, but now that Alito is talking about retiring from the Supreme Court, her name is being floated around. Isn't it just funny? Like 2 years ago, people were all saying Trump can declassify anything he wants. And yet whenever questions come up about the Epstein files, he's like, oh, Pam Bondi's taking care of that. I have nothing to do with any of that anymore. So y'all have to admit that Donald Trump didn't declassify shit. I think I found the connection between Jeffrey Epstein and the Mar-a-Lago spa. You see, he wasn't just recruiting at the spa, he had a mole inside the spa. So this is Adriana Ross, former elite model and named co-conspirator in the original Jeffrey Epstein case. She was a Polish-born model, supposedly getting her visa for here in 2002. But as we know, that's not exactly how it happens in the Epstein world. So supposedly she was hired to work as his assistant at his estate in Florida, but was only one time on the flight log. So she wasn't his right-hand gal like the others. Now, one of those phone notes that was found in Epstein's trash said, Adriana hasn't confirmed Julie. She's keeping Brittany on hold. So she definitely was coordinating these times and victims and such. Now, while she was named as one of his possible co-conspirators who was, given immunity, I have never once heard her name from one of the victims. But we know she's not some random person who was just recruiting for him for more money. In fact, the estate's house manager even said in a deposition that she removed 3 computers from the estate. Now, here's the weird part. I went through Epstein's little black book, and even though she worked from him from 2002 to 2007, her name's not in here. This is supposedly someone you trust enough to delete your incriminating photos off of a computer, yet you don't have her name down? Well, today, in all of my research, today was the first day that I ever heard her name. And that's when it clicked for me, because just 2 days ago, I was reading Virginia Roberts' deposition for her lawsuit against Maxwell. While she was being asked questions in this deposition about what happened after her first assault by Epstein, she was asked, do you know if you went after work at Mar-a-Lago? Yes. So you went to work the very next day at Mar-a-Lago? Yes. Did you have a conversation with anyone at Mar-a-Lago about the day before at El Brillo? No. You didn't talk to any of your coworkers about it? No. Who was your boss at the time? No. Did you have a boss at the time? I think Adriana or Adrian. I don't remember the exact pronunciation of her name, but it's along those lines. I believe she was my boss. Now it makes sense, doesn't it? She was the boss at Mar-a-Lago Spa. She would be the one to tell Maxwell who to target. That's exactly what Trump meant when he said Epstein stole young women from the Mar-a-Lago Spa from him. Epstein was so pissed off that this lawyer, Bradley Edwards, actually was representing his victims in a class action lawsuit. Jeffrey Epstein got his boss thrown in prison for 50 years. Y'all remember in 2007 when Epstein's victims were never informed that he was taking a plea deal? Well, that's actually illegal under the Florida Victims Crimes Act. So pro bono, Bradley Edwards took up their case in 2008. That same year, in 2008, is when Jeffrey Epstein actually sued Bradley Edwards, as well as his boss and law firm, Scott Rothstein. But it should be noted that in 2015, Edwards actually tried to depose some government witnesses for the Epstein case involving the not sending out the, notices. It should be noted that one of those people is first AUSA Jeff Sloman. You see, Jeffrey Sloman was Acosta, sweetheart deal Acosta's right-hand man. But Acosta left the job. He took over for the United States Attorney of the Southern District of Florida. And in 2009, Bradley Edwards' boss, Scott Rothstein, was arrested on billion-dollar RICO charges. Basically, they said he was running a Ponzi scheme. At first, he pled not guilty. Then he ended up getting some sort of deal with them. And then the judge didn't listen to the deal. Ended up giving him 50 years. And then promptly, right after this, Jeffrey Sloman not only stepped down because, he was interim, but he left the job completely going into the private sector. In Epstein's lawsuit against Edwards and Rothstein, he claimed that all those victims fabricated the story in order to fund this Ponzi scheme. I mean, it seems pretty clear to me what happened. He knew the dirt on the boss of the guy who was suing him. And Epstein's work release was giving them information about Rothstein, among a bunch of other things, I'm sure. There is so much involved in this case that it's official. I cleaned the Karen board, and I am in process of tackling a timeline.
Yes.
What if I were to tell you that Virginia Roberts only worked at Mar-a-Lago for 3 weeks? Mar-a-Lago wasn't a hunting ground for Ghislaine Maxwell. It was a screening process. In June of the year 2000, Virginia Roberts had dropped out of high school and she was getting her GED. Her dad was the maintenance manager at Mar-a-Lago. Her dad was very well liked there, and he went to HR and she got an interview to be a locker room attendant. I'm not someone that's opposed to background checks, but according to Virginia, she had to do a drug test and a polygraph test to get the job. We've all heard a summary of how it came about that Ghislaine Maxwell recruited Virginia Roberts, but until you actually read the nuances in the deposition, it's so much more complicated and scarier than you think. This place was giving a 16-year-old polygraphs, and yet they didn't actually train her. She was told to clean up after people in the locker room and how to make tea. She identifies the person who's the head of the spa as an Adriana or Adrian. Well, it just so happens that one of Jeffrey Epstein's unindicted co-conspirators was Adriana Marcinkovska. In the deposition, Maxwell's lawyers were asking her a lot about her uniform. Virginia said she and the other locker room lady had a uniform. The trainers, the masseuses, they all had their own uniform, and yet Adriana didn't wear a uniform. She just dressed professional. The story we've always heard summarized was that Virginia Roberts was lounging around reading a book on massage therapy, and that's when Maxwell approached her. But in reality, she was behind the desk where the other girl usually sat. So she was working while reading a book on massage therapy. Well, her memory about where she got that massage therapy book is pretty fuzzy. While trying to figure out what her life was going to be after she got her GED, she became interested in massage therapy. Maxwell approached her behind the desk and said, "Oh, you want to do massage?" And she told her that she'd like to become a masseuse. Virginia Roberts can't remember where she got the book from. She thought maybe the library. She told Ghislaine that this was the first book she's ever read about massage therapy. And that's when she offered to get her educated, help train her, make her travel, all that glitz and glam. I looked up the library she thought she might have gotten the book from, and a book can only be checked out for 3 weeks there. Virginia only worked at this spa for 3 weeks total. Ghislaine Maxwell approached her after a week of working at Mar-a-Lago. I think Adriana was working at Mar-a-Lago off the books because she didn't get her visa until 2002. She implanted the idea in Virginia Roberts' head that she wanted to be a masseuse and gave her that book. Oh, but get this, Johanna, another one of Epstein's victims, in 2001, on her first plane trip with Jeffrey Epstein, is when she and Virginia flew to New York together. It was spontaneous, and that was the first time that she ever met Virginia. While 17-year-old Virginia Roberts and her were in the cockpit, the pilot told the girls to tell Jeffrey they couldn't land in New York and would have to divert to Atlantic City. Jeffrey said, "Great, we'll call up Trump and we'll go," I don't recall the name of the casino, but we'll go to the casino. At this point, Virginia is fully a trafficking victim. She is being sent to places to go to men. And just a couple weeks ago, the ex-casino boss who worked for Trump's casino said that in the late 80s, Trump and Epstein were caught by the gaming commissioner on the floor with 3 girls who were under 21. I don't think she even knew that she had the missing piece between the two. Virginia was a fighter and she was not letting up, and that's why they took her out. Mm-hmm. What if I were to tell you that Virginia Roberts only worked at Mar-a-Lago for 3 weeks? Mar-a-Lago wasn't a hunting ground for Ghislaine Maxwell.
Okay, so that is the end of her playlist. Go follow her. The link is below. I'm not getting paid for any of this. This is completely, utterly free. I wasn't going to pay. No.
Maxwell.
That'd have been wrong.
It was
I just want to bring awareness to everything. I want to bring awareness to what she is standing for. I wanted to bring awareness to the Jeffrey Epstein case. That was the primary reason why I did that.
In June of the year 2000.
So thanks to whoever stayed throughout the duration of this live show. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Please spread the word. Please spread the word, because currently, as you can see, we have a madman that's currently in the White House. If you guys don't realize that, he is seriously a madman and he should be definitely investigated. This has gone on long enough. Let me just go here just a second here. But yeah. Yes. So just to reiterate, yes, Trump has literally organized a crime trafficking ring. He's trying to cover up all his trafficking, all his criminal activities. That's why he's currently going after Letitia James, because she is the one who won that $400 million case against him. He's trying to go after anyone who can implicate him or indict him. Trump is a criminal. He is a trafficker. And he needs to be stopped. And him, Elon Musk, and Putin allegedly have rigged the election. They did rig the election, and that needs to be investigated. So please share, and may gods and goddesses protect this girl and her page. Bye, guys. Thanks. I don't know if I want to do the public speaking thing.